Hello everyone, welcome back in for another video. So today I wanted to take a look at Forge World and address some things that have been kind of thrown around online recently that I think are correct, and that it's Forge World is getting rolled into Games Workshop, where large portions of their production line are being taken away, and people are being transferred over to Games Workshop because they're in charge of Horus Heresy now. So that whole division of Forge World gets transferred to Games Workshop, right? They're slowly taking more and more models off of the Forge World website, revealing that they're going to be put out in plastic and now sold through Games Workshop. So a lot more people have been talking about this kind of move, and that between Blood Bowl, which Blood Bowl historically was a Forge World thing, but that has been taken away. They're still doing some characters through Forge World. But now Horus Heresy is being taken away, and I just wanted to go through a couple things and say why I think that that's what's going to end up happening. I'm not sure if Forge World will completely be shut down, though, because that's what a bunch of people are like, no, it's going to be closed, because they do make the Titans, and people buy the Titan models. They're super expensive, but if they're still selling those, like they sold out over the pandemic, for instance, there's no reason to completely shut it down. And I don't think Games Workshop, but again, I don't know, but I don't think Games Workshop is going to start selling that size of kit. That's a whole other thing, because for them to bring that out in plastic, I don't know if they'll do that. But I just kind of wanted to go through what Forge World kind of has gotten to this point, right? Because between Blood Bowl and Horus Heresy, I'd say that arguably those were kind of their two main things for a while. They had some Warhammer Old World stuff, and now they have a handful of Warhammer Age of Sigmar stuff. And they have always had a ton of 40k options for you to take. But even that has been slowly rolled back, where there's less and less offers from Forge World. There's new stuff coming out, but like the new Lord of the Rings stuff, how well is that selling? I don't know. I would like to order these models, but I cannot because they're too expensive, right? Forge World is too expensive for me, right? It's unfortunate, but it is what it is. Like so the Host of the Dragon Emperor, which is a thing I actually would want to get, is $250 for 8 models. One of the models is a display piece model, but then I'm paying shipping on top of that, right? Whatever it is. So it's just, it's just not a thing for me. But I wanted to go through the process here because I have Forge World models. Historically, I've been given them as gifts or bought a handful of things over time. And with the rise of 3D printing, everyone always talks about 3D printing is going to kill Games Workshop. I think 3D printing has killed Forge World. I think that's where people got it wrong, right? They are pouring this resin, and the resin that Forge World uses is the cheapest crap resin. It is awful, and they honestly should be ashamed of themselves for some of the stuff that they put out. I've gotten models where it's so warped and so horrible, and it's just like, oh well, that's just Forge World. You're gonna have to put it into boiling water, not melt the model, and bend it back yourself, right? Or when you get a Forge World model, I'd say for me, 75% of the time, something was so bad on it that I had to spend all this extra time to fix, to repair, to green stuff, glue, whatever you have to do. And they should be ashamed of themselves. Like the price that they charge, and they use the cheapest resin you can get your hands on. Like when they show the resin comparison for 3D printed models, right? Where someone, if you're watching a YouTube video and the person's like, hey, here's 5 different types of resin, the pros and cons of the resin, and they go through it, right? Like you can see that this resin that doesn't cost very much, people will 3D print, spearmen, and be like, look, the spear bends. And when I saw that for the first time, my jaw dropped, because I was just like, resin is brittle and horrible to work with and easily breaks. No, it's that they want the profits to be so high that they won't shell out a couple bucks. It's not a huge financial difference here to get better resin, to make better product. And I think they've done it to themselves. I think that it's just insane to think that even now they've consistently still are charging these huge prices. They're still using the horribly cheap resin. Like, it's wild. Like I got a dreadnought one time, and it had a hole in it through the whole model. And I was like, how did no one notice this? And I got sent another one. But it's funny, when you pay a premium price, you're paying the maximum possible price you could for a miniature, and you get sent, you wait, 2 months, however long it takes to get to you. And then it's just mangled. And You email them, and again, I sent pictures. They sent me another one, right? The customer service was fine, but I know that some people have said that the customer service experiences for them were nightmarish. For me, it never was. It was just, hey, I spent $200 on this model. It's crap. Send me another one. You know, you shouldn't have to do that, right? You should never have to do that with this. Like, I just couldn't imagine if I bought the Host of the Dragon Emperor and it shows up and all the weapons are all bent and it's just like, oh, well, it's on you to fix. No, it's on you to send me something that's good, right? It's not my job. It's your job, and you can't do it. So, like, even the Warhound Titan, like, I got a Warhound Titan, and the thing to, like, the pieces didn't fit. I had to get my dad's belts in. Like, it was just the effort that went into the construction of it to fix what they messed up was ludicrous for the price. And I think that with Horus Heresy, you're seeing that for the price of miniatures now is gotten so out of control in general in a lot of cases. Again, I'm pro Song of Fire and Ice. I've been playing that and absolutely loving it. It's reasonably priced. But when you're looking at this and telling me, okay, well, for $250 I get these 8 models and I don't have an army, I'm going to have to throw in, all this extra cash to have an even playable force. Or it's just like, oh, this is a display for me, right? Like, I just can't afford that. And it's wild that it's gotten to this point where if they are actually going to be folded in, I think it's a good step, because I think that it's shameful what they're producing. It's wild how bad the quality is, and it's just, it's about time, I think, that they got rid of it. I stopped ordering Forge World stuff so long ago, and I'm a better for it. Like, it's so upsetting when I think back even, and like, I got Lorgar official in the box. I ordered Lorgar. The head was just not, like, it was a blank face basically, and they sent me another one, and the second one was fine, but I think that was the last official Forge World thing I bought was Lorgar, and I was just like, I've had enough. You're spending like all this money on the Primarch model, and again, mistakes get made once in a while. It happens, right? And I'm not trying to say that is the be all end all, but with these models, if you're spending 100, like, how much was Lorgar when I got Lorgar? Here, we'll scroll down here. So he was from a while ago. No, did I pass him? Lorgar somewhere, and we're gonna find him. Or not. Here, I'll just search it. So, because the price difference in a lot of the Primarch models was over time. Oh, he's out of stock. That's why. So it was $142, right, for this model. The body was fine. Everything else was fine, but the head was literally just like a nondescript flat face, basically. And again, I just emailed, sent a picture, was like, please send me a replacement head. They sent me a replacement head. But for $142, that is unacceptable to me. And that's why I stopped buying Forge World stuff. And even with Horus Heresy, where it always was in the back of my head being like, oh man, it would be so much fun to do a Horus Heresy army. But any of the armies that I want to do, it's too expensive. It's just too much of a money sink to throw in. And maybe someday I'll be in a better spot, right? And I'll be able to be like, you know what, I can shell out $600 for whatever army I want. But at this point, I can't. So the first thing I wanted to bring up next was, here's the Sicarian battle tank. So again, I believe this tank was $200. I think it was $220 or something. It's not on the site anymore. But this tank, I always was like, man, that tank is so cool. I'd love to pick one up, but I can't afford that. People were saying that the price of this will probably be on par with the Land Raider. So it'll end up being $100. $110, so it's going to be about half the cost that it was on Forge World. And an interesting argument is also that the recast market has become so huge because Forge World prices are so expensive that this will kind of cut into that significantly, I think, because the recasters, I think they're like half price or something on the Forge World prices. I'm not really sure what it is. I know that it's way cheaper, but I don't know the exact pricing of it. But if let's say that it is half. Let's say it was $220 for the Cicarian originally from Forge World. Recasters are charging $110. If Games Workshop now comes out with a plastic kit, where again, I've heard horror stories where you order the Cicarian tank, it gets to your house, and all of the armor panels have curled, so you have to flatten everything out before you can assemble it. So that was another thing that it wasn't going in their favor. But with a plastic kit, you won't have any of those issues. And with Games Workshop getting replacement stuff, if something is warped, let's say on the sprue, I've had that happen before. It's very rare, but once in a while I'll be like, oh man, well, this clearly didn't like cast properly. They will send you another sprue. You just go to the store you bought it, or if you bought it online, you email them. Their customer service is very good. It does take a long time to get back to you, but I've never had any issues with that. But this just goes to show that the tanks that they have removed are all stuff like, why won't they continue to do this, right? A lot of people were like, well, they're just going to remove these things and not the rest. Why wouldn't they remove everything off of Forge World for Horus Heresy, right? Like, I wanted to show this. So this is the Predator, right? They can bring out the Horus Heresy Predator with all of the weapon variants in a box set and get rid of this too. Like, scrolling down through this, some of these are these giant Mechanicum tanks, and for Games Workshop to bring this out, it would have to be a separate decision where it's like, no, we're going to do Titans and the huge tanks. I was trying to think of the largest kits that Games Workshop makes, and I think it's probably, I guess, the Demon, Primarch, Knight, Kragnos. Like, it, you know, it's that kind of scale where there's nothing kind of bigger than like that size right now. Greater Demons, like kind of in that vein. But if they do go this route, then they'll start pumping out huge kits as well for these things. But as of now, there's nothing that is that size, right? Like the bombardment tanks, they could, I believe there's a couple different variants for that, right? All of these again could be brought out with all the weapon options from Games Workshop at a cheaper price, and then you wouldn't run into these problems with this cheap resin that is the worst. And this goes into it that Forge World, let's say that they do take off Horus Heresy, which it looks like they're going to do. The movement of that over time is going to be a long period of time. It's not going to fold right away. Like, people were talking as if next week it was going to be done, right? Like, oh, Forge World is dead. Even just the Titan sales, which again, I don't know the figures, but they sell out all the time. They would keep it going just to continue producing that, but that's what they might decrease the size of the studio. They're removing Blood Bowl, they're removing Horus Heresy, all the outside factors, and just have a much smaller team focus on making Titans, which maybe is going to be a better business model for them, right? The fact that Games Workshop is taking over all these different games that were specialist Forge World games shows how badly they have dropped the ball on these games, right? None of this is good for Forge World. This, you know, having Games Workshop take all their games from them, right? Because I wanted to use an example here for some of it where, for here I've brought up the Iron Warriors. And for me, getting into Horus Heresy, it was always kind of like looking at the different legions. I was always jumping back and forth. And I have so much 40k stuff that I was like, you know, I'd rather just keep playing 40k. But, you know, 40k is a mess now. So, you know, maybe getting into Horus Heresy. And I'm going to get the rule book and go through everything. But I'll do it in my own way. But for this, for Iron Warriors, let's say I want to do that. I think the bare minimum every single faction has is this. They have a Primarch. They have the Contemptor Dreadnought. They have their Terminator special unit, shoulder pads, heads, right? And then the old Rhino doors. So that's the bare minimum. And then I think you can tell like how in depth they've gone into making stuff for the Legion based off of that. So for here, the only extra thing that Iron Warriors have is the Iron Circle. So Perturabo's personal bodyguards that he created, right? That's the only extra thing. And when you compare it to the Imperial Fists, right? Like, there's no even Praetors. The Praetors should be on that list, and the Iron Warriors don't even have that. They have got all these special characters, Imperial Fist Command, Templar set, specialty shields for their Cataphracti, specialty weapons. They've also got the Phalanx Breachers, right? You've got multiple special characters again. It's just, they feel a lot more fleshed out, and if you were to do Imperial Fists, I think there's a lot more there for you to sink your teeth into in terms of like specialist cool stuff where now you throw in one or two tanks, take all their special units, and you're like, yeah, Imperial Fest, right? Whereas with Iron Warriors, the way it's set up now, it's just kind of like, well, you're just going to spam troops basically and then have some siege guys, right? So I'm hoping that as Games Workshop takes stuff over and we see stuff, more and more things moving over, the cost is going to come down, but it's an opportunity for them to expand on a lot of these legions that were kind of like done so long ago and nothing brought out, or it might reinvigorate interest in them as well. But I also wanted to go through this. So the Horus Heresy Black Library Celebration, because I feel as though people forgot about this, right? So for the celebration, they brought out these two special characters for Horus Heresy. And at first, everyone was kind of looking at them going, well, there'll be Forge World releases. I'm not going to get these models. Then they announced that they're coming through Games Workshop, and they're in plastic. They're not in resin. So I think moving forward, they haven't completely changed, because the Dark Angels Deathwing character came out, and it was still a Forge World Forge World resin sculpt that's only sold through Forge World. But we will see a movement into this, where this was the test. This was the test to see if we would all buy Horus Heresy characters in plastic from Games Workshop. And I know they sold out. Everyone picked these up because they were like $32. I think they were so reasonably priced in comparison to everything else that the hype was real for them, and everyone could pick them up just because they're so cool. They're such good models, right? So this is, again, interesting to me, because since they sold so well, Games Workshop went, okay, we should be doing more of these characters in plastic. And I think now we will see that move of, as the character series continues, it will now be taken off of the Forge World part here, right, where you can go to the character series. There's 41 characters here, right? And all of these new characters will be brought out in plastic by Games Workshop. Because again, when they bring out these one-off characters other than the Primarchs, and they're still, like here, Eidolon, right, is $100, right, plus shipping, right? You always got to include that in your head, because sometimes it does. You get tax and shipping on top of that. The prices of these models are astronomical in comparison. And hopefully, eventually, they'll bring out these characters in plastic, and then you'll be able to get them through Games Workshop at a more reasonable price. They should drop a bit. They probably wouldn't be too much, but at least then it's just easily accessible to more people. So last thing here is just, I think like very soon we're going to see up here, there's going to be another section added in. So it'll be, Warhammer Age of Sigmar, 40K, Horus Heresy, then Middle-earth Black Library, and so on, where we'll see more and more things slowly be taken down off of the Forge World website. Like already it's been gutted, right? Already there's so much stuff that has been taken off, and we're just going to see that continue, right? Like even this with doing Lord of the Rings stuff, like it's funny to me where I would assume now that Games Workshop is redoing Lord of the Rings, because it's a 20-year cycle with the patent for it, I believe, where, if they don't do anything with the models every so often, they lose the licensing for Lord of the Rings. So they're always going to be this cycle of bringing out new models once in a while. Like, for instance, they just redid Treebeard, because I believe that was the 20-year mark exactly, where if they don't, then they can't make another one. But anyways, like pushing this sort of stuff, where even this, they'll have taken off of Forge World. Like the upgrade packs for Necromunda, more now are being sold through Games Workshop. They're taking more and more stuff from Forge World, because I think the sales show that people are just not willing to pay these huge prices anymore. But anyways, let me know in the comments what you thought about this video. I really wanted to try to go through a large aspect of it, because I know a lot of the videos I've seen online are just people saying it's dead, because like the Cicarian was used as an example in a lot of the videos, being like, this is the final straw. They're going to take all the tanks. They're doing this, and this from Forge World, and then now it's going to close in like a month, right? I don't think it's anything that drastic. I think it'll be a slow change and rollout over years. But even decreasing the size of the studio, just with Horus Heresy, taking them and putting them at the Games Workshop headquarters, because you have to think about this as a sunk cost from the business side of it, saying Forge World has a completely separate studio with staffing, the rent on the property, like everything that's going on over there. If they can roll that into the newer Games Workshop building, which is huge, and they probably have the room for it, they can eliminate that cost. And you don't know what the sales for Forge World are. We all know that the Titans are doing very well. But other than that, what's selling, what's not, who knows? Again, let me know in the comments what you think is going to happen to Forge World. Do you think it's going to be kind of combined in with Games Workshop? Is it always going to be its own separate thing? If you're not already subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button. It helps me out so much. And I'll see everybody soon.